Hello YouTubers, this is the Yamaha Natural Sound stereo amplifier. The exact model is CA-810. You've seen it in the previous video where I replaced the bulbs in the VU meters. I thought I'd do a quick presentation of it. It's a noteworthy amplifier, so it's definitely worthy of a video. Obviously the first thing is the power switch, power indicator. Next to that we have the headphone jack, and next to that the speaker control selector, speaker selector. You have A pair, B pair, A and B pair, and off. Why would you use off? Well, when you plug headphones into the headphone socket, it doesn't automatically mute. So if you're going to do some headphone listening, select off. Next to that we have the mode switch. You have stereo or mono. Mono is useful for balancing the speakers. When you go to mono, the speaker outputs is the same for left and right. So choose mono, make sure where you're positioned the balance is correct between the two speakers, then flick back to stereo. Next to the mode switch we have the subsonic filter. On some records, notably warped ones, there's a low frequency rumble. By selecting 15 Hz, that should cut off or eliminate the worst of that. And next to the subsonic filter there's the high filter switch, which kicks in at 10 kHz. And over those controls we have the VU meters, which show the output from the left and right channels. Let's position the camcorder to the right of the amplifier and describe those controls. First up are the tone controls. You have bass and treble. There are associated switches. You can have tone defeat in the middle, which negates them, and you have turnover frequencies at 500 Hz and 125 Hz for the bass control, and 2.5 kHz and 8 kHz for the treble control. Next to the tone controls is the audio muting switch. The middle position, 0 dB, is normal, default. If you flick down, you take 20 dB off the volume. That's useful for positioning the cartridge onto a record. I'm sure you know when you position a cartridge onto a record there are some initial noises. By doing that, then positioning the cartridge, those noises are eliminated or reduced. By flicking up, you select pre, out, off. That's useful for isolating the main amplifier from all the connections at the rear of the amplifier. By doing that, you can plug in various cables and whatnot, and those associated noises and signals that you don't want to go to the speakers won't, and that way you'll prevent any damage from occurring in the speakers. Above these controls, first on the left, is the record out selector. That lets you select which source you want to record. It's interesting to note that you can record and hear different material, so what you record through here isn't necessarily what you'll hear. That you'll select with this control, and if you select record out off, that position there, you completely isolate the amplifier from all the recording terminals. Next to the record selector obviously is the input selector, and as I mentioned, that will select which source you want to listen to. The phono selector is interesting on this unit. It accommodates moving magnets and moving coil cartridges of various impedances. There's a large range. Next to the phono selector is the loudness control. Not everyone understands the need for that and sort of view it as a second volume control, which isn't quite true. What it actually does is to boost the extreme low and high frequencies to compensate for our ears' reduced sensitivity to those frequencies at low volumes. So to use it, you select the volume that you want to listen to, scale that to the right, and you get a flat frequency response. But to decrease the volume, rather than use the volume control, if you rotate that to the left, you'll decrease the volume but retain the natural balance between low and high frequencies. And lastly are the volume and balance controls. As I mentioned briefly before, to balance the sound it's better to select mono, then move the balance control until you get the desired sound, then flick back to stereo. The volume control, well, we'll know to use that. Okay, let's turn the unit around and look at the back of it. Pretty standard stuff really. The ground connector provided for grounding turntables and such, for a wide variety of inputs, 3 of which are those phono inputs I mentioned before, and tape inputs. The preamp and main amp sections can be used independently with those jacks. For normal operation, obviously leave those plugged in, and over here we have the speaker inputs. Okay, back to the front. Okay, time for a quick demo I think. What with YouTube's annoying habit of stopping content producers from using anything other than royalty-free music, even for short listening tests, I've had to use some royalty-free music. So I put a whole bunch of it on my phone, and I shall plug it into the amplifier via that, and just get through it. Most of it I think is by Kevin MacLeod. It's a mixture of stuff, not necessarily stuff that I like, but I'll just flick through the music and you get a flavour of what this thing can do. Again, keeping in mind what you're hearing at your end are your speakers, not what this amplifier is capable of doing, and not what my speakers are capable of doing. You're just going to get a vague idea of what this machine can do. It's eclectic if nothing else, and I'll be interested to see if I get any notifications from YouTube about the music. So there you have it, my Yamaha CA-810 amplifier. Quite a nice machine. So until next time, bye for now. No, natural surround. There. Selector. And it's there. No. Go there. What is that noise of the speakers? That's awful. That's better.